Shalom. First and foremost, call halal Yamalah, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Harakhakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned the truth from, and also peace and salutation to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And the title of this video is going to be, The Pale Horse Will Come Through Like a Storm. Alright, and the pale horse is making reference to Revelation, the 6th chapter. Here you see on the screen. This is Revelation chapter 6. I'm going to start at verse 7. It says, And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. Alright. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. Alright. And we know pale, alright, paleness represents dread, fear, terror, right? You know, because just like when you used to watch, those old cartoons from back in the day, you know, your Tom and Jerry cartoons, the different cartoons that used to air on TV, you know, years ago back in the day. You know, you would have scenes where, you know, one of the other characters in the cartoon, they would encounter something that would put them in total fear, whether it be, you know, an animal or, you know, just something, you know, something that would have that character in fear, right? And then immediately it would show what? It would show that character being turned pale, basically, you know, being turned, you know, white in the face, okay? Because paleness represents dread, fear, okay? You know, horrifying encounter. Okay, and as I said again, Revelation chapter 6 and verse 8, and I looked, and behold a pale horse. Alright, and mind you, this is not talking about a literal horse rider, you know, riding out of the sky, cracking the clouds, riding upon a literal horse coming down to the earth. Okay, because we know a horse in the scriptures, alright, a horse in the scriptures is also symbolic of power. As you have, you know, actual horses mentioned throughout the scriptures, right? But horses also represents power, okay? And we know that angels in the heavens are powers, okay? You know, angelic heavenly powers, right? And so, you know, what the pale horse is ultimately speaking of, okay, pretty much a spirit that the Most High Yahweh Shai is getting ready to send down to the earth, alright, very, very soon in these end times, okay, to do what? As it says, Revelation 6 verse 8, and I looked, and behold a pale horse, okay, dreadful, fearsome power, right? And it says, and his name that sat on him was Death. See that? And hell followed with him, okay? So the power that this pale horse, so to speak, is going to come with is going to bring forth great death, all right, throughout the earth, okay? You know, the great death in these end times. And as it says, hell followed him, okay, which hell meaning the grave, okay? Hell throughout the scriptures means the grave, all right? Because, you know, all the great death that the Lord is going to bring to the society in these latter days, okay, is going to, you know, bring for what? You know, graves, you know, dead bodies everywhere, bodies dropping, okay? And it says, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, all right? And what is the fourth part of the earth? Okay, that's, you know, so-called North America, but primarily here in the United States, okay, Babylon the Great. All right, this is the fourth part of the earth, okay? Because when you go into, you know, the old world, which is the Eastern world, you know, that was the, you know, the world that was primarily known back in ancient times. All right, and then of course, we know later on down in history, you had, you know, Esau, Edom via Christopher Columbus, you know, sail over here to the west, down into the Caribbean, and then down into what we know was known today as so-called South America. All right, it did, you know, brought nothing but great robbery, murder, disease, plague to the northern tribes. All right, Ephraim, Zebulon, Simeon, Manasseh, Asher, Naphtali. Okay, the northern tribes that dwelt primarily throughout Central and South America, along with the Caribbean and West Indies. Okay, and then eventually later on down, you had what? Okay, Esau, Edom eventually made his way. Okay, from Europe, all right, across the Atlantic Ocean to what's known today as so-called North America. Okay, so-called North America, all right, is the fourth part of the earth. Okay, the last region of the earth has been so-called, right, so-called discovered by Esau Edom, which we know Esau Edom didn't discover a damn thing, because when Esau Edom came to the side of the world, all right, there were already people dwelling on the side of the world. Okay, our people, the northern tribes that migrated to this side of the world after the Assyrian captivity. Okay, which you read about in Second Kings, the 17th chapter, and then you read about in the abridged history of the northern tribes. All right, Ephraim, Gad, Issachar, Manasseh, Zebulon, Asher. Okay, you read about the an abridged history of the northern tribes coming over here to the west. All right, Arsareth in Second Ezra, the 13th chapter, from about verse 40 on down. You read about how the northern tribes, okay, the 10 tribes, as it reads in that chapter, okay, coming over here from the Assyrian captivity, all right, from the eastern world over here to the west. Okay, and so as it's going into Revelation 6 and verse 8, the fourth part of the earth is talking about here in America, Babylon the Great. Okay, so this pale horse, okay, which represents death, all right, along with the grave. Okay, this powerful spirit that Yahweh Shema Shah is getting ready to send, okay, throughout the earth, and especially here in America, Babylon the Great, to bring forth all kinds of death. All right, destruction, division. Okay, it says, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, all right, to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. Okay, so this pale horse, all right, this powerful, dreadful, okay, terrifying spirit that Yahweh Shema Shah is getting ready to release onto the earth, especially throughout America, Babylon the Great, is going to bring forth all kinds of death and destruction in a form of what, as it read, okay, to kill with the sword. Okay, the sword being what, the gun. All right, via in the form of all kinds of civil war and civil unrest that's brewing up here in America. Okay, division everywhere. All right, and as well, the sword is also going to come in the form of, all right, Esau, Edom coming down with great wrath, which according to Psalm the 17th chapter, our forefather King David referred to Esau, Edom, the wicked, as the Most High sword. Okay, where he said, deliver me from the wicked, which is thy sword. That's in the book of Psalms, the 17th chapter. Okay, so the sword, all right, the pale horse is also going to go to work as well in the form of what, Esau, Edom, who's been blessed with the sword, pursuant to Genesis 27. All right, Esau, Edom in his latter days, as he knows he has a short time left to rule, he's getting ready to come down with great wrath. All right, in the form of martial law. Okay, these ICE agents all crawling all throughout America, Babylon the Great. Okay, robot police, robot dogs. All right, AI, Palantir. Mass surveillance everywhere, drones. Okay, Esau, Edom. The Lord's getting ready to use Esau, Edom to come down with the sword. All right, to bring forth all kinds of death and destruction throughout this, primarily here in Babylon and Great America. Okay, so this pale horse is also going to go to work in the form of the Lord putting the spirit on Esau, Edom to execute a lot of these things. Because remember, all right, on Esau's Georgia Guidestones, it was literally written in stone, all right, Esau's Georgia Guidestones, to reduce the Earth's population down to 500 million. And right now the Earth has a population of over 8 billion people. Okay, so to reduce the Earth's population from 8 billion people worldwide to 500 million people worldwide, okay, you would need instruments to bring forth great death and great destruction throughout society. Okay, great death in the form of pestilence, disease, okay, the sword, and as it also read the latter part of Revelation 6 verse 8, okay, to kill with the sword and with hunger. Okay, hunger is also going to be used as a major form of great death by Esau, Edom, on the left hand side. And we clearly see that starting November 1st, when those SNAP benefits are going to be ended, okay, that's going to be a tool to break forth great hunger and great famine upon people across America, Babylon the Great. Okay, over 40 million people here in America are at risk of their SNAP benefits coming to an end starting November 1st. Okay, so that's going to bring forth great death in the form of hunger, starvation, famine, right? And as it says, and with the beast of the earth, okay, which as it speaks of in the Apocrypha, the teeth of wild beasts, okay, the teeth of wild beasts, newly created creatures that it speaks of in the Apocrypha, so the Lord's gonna have, all right, great death and great destruction happening all, of course, throughout the whole earth, all right, as it speaks of in Isaiah the 13th chapter, where the Most High said, he would punish the world for their iniquity, roughly paraphrasing it. Okay, that's going to what's going to be at the forefront of the Most High punishing the whole earth for iniquities and sin and wickedness. Okay, America is going to be at the forefront of the Lord judging this earth. Okay, in the form of this pale horse. Okay, great death, the sword, civil war, civil unrest, anarchy. Okay, Esau coming down with great wrath through martial law and robot police and robot dogs and these ICE agents everywhere. Okay, Palantir. All right, Esau using biological warfare against people by spreading diseases. All right, viruses. Okay, and as a matter of fact, just about a day or two ago, Usosi had a truck, that was containing so-called dangerous monkeys, as Esau's putting that out in the media, where supposedly the truck toppled on a road, okay, and it flipped, and the monkeys escaped out of the back of the truck, and now they're just running loose. Okay, disease-ridden monkeys, mind you, okay, escaped out of the truck that supposedly toppled over down in Mississippi. Okay, and now these monkeys are supposedly running loose. Okay, attacking people, spreading whatever diseases that they're holding. Okay, and it's just like, as brothers been circulating, it's just it's the same thing that you saw on the movie Outbreak that came out back in 1995, where supposedly there was a big outbreak that broke out in a particular city in the United States, as it portrayed in the movie, right? And it led to pretty much the government of that city or that state locking down that region, locking down the whole entire city, enforcing curfews and checkpoints and all that, all because of what? Supposedly the disease started with some disease-ridden monkeys pretty much getting loose, all right, and running rampant throughout the city, all right. And so, what does that show? That the C-19 is getting ready to come back, okay, along with whatever other diseases and pestilences that Esau is going to release throughout society to justify what? Bringing back the lockdowns, okay, checkpoints, all right, having people sitting in their houses again. Okay, more layoffs, more businesses closing down, more restaurants closing down, more places of business closing down. Okay, and ultimately it's all going to lead to, all right, bringing everybody under a digital system. That's ultimately going to lead to the MOTB, all right, the micro CL. Okay, but on the path to there, we're going to see what, sword. Okay, all kinds of division and unrest everywhere, hunger, famine. Okay, pestilence, disease, right? Judgment by these different animals throughout the earth. Teeth of wild beasts, newly created creatures. Okay, and hey, we're getting ready to see that in these latter days, as we're at the end of Esau's world, and Jacob's trouble is approaching. All right, and the day of Yahweh Shai coming back is approaching. Hey, man, as it speaks of in Second Ezra, the 4th chapter. The evil is sown, but the destruction is not yet come. Okay, we see evil being sown already throughout the earth, especially throughout America, Babylon the Great, with all this division and confusion everywhere. All right, these SNAP benefits getting ready to run out, which is going to cause millions of people around this country to pretty much snap and lose their minds and crash out. All right, both Jake and Esau getting ready to crash out over these SNAP benefits running out on November 1st. Okay, it's going to lead to more of the love and many waxing cold. Okay, it's going to lead to more crime and more violence. A lot of these people losing out on their SNAP benefits, or resorting to crime and violence to get access to food and resources to feed themselves and feed their children. All right, and it's going to lead to all out chaos. Okay, the main thing, or rather, one of the main things is going to cause people, especially here in America, to pretty much snap and lose their minds is when they're no longer going to have access to resources. Okay, perplexity, as Yahushua spoke of in Luke 21. Okay, distress of nations with perplexity. Okay, people are going to be without resources. People are going to be without food, without medications and medical needs. All right, so therefore, what the famine, along with lack of resources, perplexity, is going to be one of the main things that's going to cause people to snap in these outer days. All right, along with people finally waking up and realizing that their government, okay, was really set up to further oppress them and bring these people into the NWO. That's also going to be another major reason why these people here in America are going to snap as well and take it to the streets. Okay, to pretty much fulfill 2nd Ezra 15 verses 14 to 19. All right, but hey, did this pale horse, okay, this dreadful, terrifying, powerful spirit that the Lord's getting ready to unleash, okay, over the fourth part of the earth, America, Babylon the Great. Hey, this thing is gonna be nothing nice. All right, and again, quoting 2nd Ezra, the 4th chapter, the evil is sown, but the destruction is not yet come. We see the evil sown and scattered throughout America, Babylon the Great already. Now it's just a matter of time for the destruction to come. All right, it's a matter of time for some type of major Black Swan event to take place, or we possibly can see something major pop off starting November 1st when the SNAP benefits run out. Okay, or who knows? Okay, who knows? What's gonna happen? In these days and weeks and months to come. But we, the hopeful elect of Yahweh Bashim Shai, starting with the apostles and the bishops and the elders of Great Millstone, down to the least of us that are of the hopeful elect, we know for sure, according to Bible prophecy, that things are going to continue to get worse before they get better. Okay, which better is going to come when Yahweh Shai returns, and to just bring destruction upon the society by way of fire, okay, nuclear fire, as well as the fire from the chariots of Yahweh Shai and the angels, as well as the deliverance and the salvation of his elect. out of all this madness. Okay, that's when the better is going to come. But until then, things are going to continue to get worse and worse. There's going to be more death coming down the pipe, more famine, more pestilence, more disease, more judgments, including from the teeth of wild beasts and newly created creatures, wild animals, right? You know, and hey, quoting again from Second Ezra the fourth chapter, all right, when these things start to intensify and pop off, that's when it's going to be the time of threshing, as it speaks of in Second Ezra the fourth chapter, where it talks about the time of threshing, roughly paraphrasing it. Okay, hey, when this pale horse is released, all right, from Yahweh Shema Shai, hey, that's when a great threshing is going to be really taking place. Okay, hey, and as it speaks of the book of Daniel 12:1, okay, the time of the end, Daniel 12:1, this is how crazy things are going to get in these days and weeks and months to come. Daniel 12 verse 1, it says, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people." Okay, which, the archangel Michael is going to be, sent down to stand up for the elect of the Lord's people. Okay, us, the hopeful elect, the remnant. Lord will not be of that number. It says, "And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time." You see that? So the days and the weeks and the months approaching, all right, especially as we're getting ready to approach the winter season, and as Yahweh Shai told us in the scriptures and in the gospels, pray not that your flight be in the winter. Okay, and with all these layoffs taking place as of lately here in America, along with these SNAP benefits running out, okay, hey, we very well, we're very much looking at Jacob's trouble coming down the pipe very, very soon. All right, and especially with the winter season coming up. All right, but ultimately, as it's going into, we know that Jacob's trouble, all right, the time of trouble that is speaking of in Daniel 12:1. All right, I'll read it again. Daniel 12 verse 1. "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time." You see that? So this time of trouble that's coming down the pipe is going to be like a time never before. All right, since there was a nation on the earth. Okay, well, it's going to be great. Just all manner of death and slaughter and hunger and salvation. It's like not salvation, but starvation. Okay, stink. The dead bodies everywhere, dead corpses. Okay, and especially when things are going to get so bad to where electricity is going to be cut off, people's water is going to be cut off. Okay, people are not going to have access to resources. What is that going to cause? Okay, mass stink from people to go up as well, because people won't have access to to take showers and bathe like they're regularly used to. Okay, these men and these women walking around. Okay, just imagine being in an environment, all right, where you're going to be walking around and people are going to be hungry, not eating in 3 days, 4 days, a whole week. Okay, not bathing or showering in days or weeks. Okay, not having access to any medical needs and things like that. Hey, these are the times it's coming down the pipe. All right, it's going to be like a time never before. All right, and as well, not to mention robot police and robot dogs everywhere, drones and mass surveillance. Okay, no other time in history has ever gotten that bad. Okay, and just like as it speaks of in Second Ezra the ninth chapter, the ending is going to be with signs and effects, roughly paraphrasing it. the Lord has saved, the height of his movie, so to speak, this movie that we call life, for last, okay, for the end, okay, because we're in a time as we're at the end of Esau's world and the end of the rulership of these heathen nations. All right, we're getting ready to see, okay, some major things happen both on the left hand side and on the right hand side, okay, great death, great famine, great tribulation, okay, but as well on the right hand side, and we're also getting ready to see great miracles performed for the elect, okay, a great standard, all right, by Yahweh Shemashah performed for his elect against our enemies, okay, and as well, great victory for the Lord's elect over all of our enemies. Lord will not be of their number. Hey, so these times coming down the pipe, this time of trouble is going to be like never before. It says, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. See that? And is the elect, is the names of the elect that's found written in the book of life. Okay, that were chosen before the foundation of the heaven and earth to receive the victory in these outer days. Okay, to receive the victory over these troublesome, harsh times that's coming down the pipe. All right, these perilous times that it speaks of in Timothy's, right? And because the Lord is setting these things up in these outer days to where literally the only way to escape out of Jacob's trouble and to escape out of the great wrath of Esau, Edom is, okay, Yahweh Shemashah being with you, okay, Yahweh Shemashah covering you and protecting you, all right, with the blood of Hamashiach Yahushua, and that's only for the elect, okay, only the elect are going to be protected, all right, and covered by Yahweh Shemashah, okay, through the blood of Hamashiach Yahushua when these times come, okay, and Lord will not be of their number. See that? Because when Jacob's trouble hit, you're not going to survive Jacob's trouble by, how much guns and ammunition you have, or how much gold and silver you have, or how much food and resources you have stockpiled inside of some bunker or whatever. No. Okay, those things are not going to hold up and last, okay, during Jacob's trouble, during these troublous times that's coming down the pipe. All right, the only thing that's going to endure through these times is, all right, the elect being covered and protected, all right, via Yahweh Shemashah, all right, through the blood of Hamashiach Yahushua, okay. So this pale horse, as we read in Revelation 6 and verse 8, okay, it says, and I looked and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, all right, the grave, hell meaning the grave, okay, and it says, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, America, Babylon the Great, all right, and it says to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. You see, and you see the crazy part about this is that as Scripture speaks about, when we begin to see, great hunger and great death taking place throughout the earth, judgment by wild beasts and animals. Hey, that's just going to be the beginning of sorrows. Okay, that's just going to be the beginning of sorrows. Okay, wait till when Esau Edom rolls out the the NWO system and rolls out the MOTB. All right, that's when things are really going to get far sinister, far left. Okay. That's going to be the time where we, the hopeful elect, are really going to need the most of Yahweh to send Yahweh back to deliver us. Okay, because the world that Esau Edom is looking to set up, all right, once all is fulfilled, okay, Jacob's trouble, the pale horse doing his work, the type of world that Esau Edom was looking to set up, once all this come to pass, okay, we, the hopeful elect of Yahweh Shemashah, we're not going to be able to live whatsoever in the type of world that Esau is trying to set up. Okay, the NWO system, a worldwide digital system where he wants to have all humanity enslaved via technological means, the micro C-Up, the MOTB. Hey, we the hopeful, like we can't survive in a world like that. Okay, even Yahushua spoke of in the scriptures, that for the elect's sake, these days have to be shortened, or else what? No flesh should be saved. Okay, so you best believe, all right, once the pale horse, does his work, okay, when there's going to be great death and great famine, civil war and civil unrest taking place, all right, and Esau uses this whole entire chaotic environment to set up his NWO system and issue forth the Charagma. And you best believe this is going to be the time, all right, when the Most High is going to send Yahushua back, all right, to deliver us the hopeful elect. Soon after, Esau rolls out the MOTB. You see that? And hey, those of our people that's not going to be covered by the blood of Mashiach Yahushua, all right, will not survive Jacob's trouble. They will not endure to the end, and ultimately they will not receive salvation. That's point blank period. All right, because as Yahushua said in Matthew 24, verse 29 on down, when he comes back in his power, in his glory, he's going to send the angels throughout the four winds of the earth to deliver the elect. Okay, not all Israel, but the elect of the nation of Israel. All right, the 1/3, starting with the 144,000. Okay, those amongst our people that's going to be covered by the blood of Mashiach Yahushua when Yahushua returns. Lord would not be able to number. See? Let's see. Also had this. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16 and verse 74. It says, "Hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai." Okay, and who is the beloved of Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai? Us, the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. It says, "Behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same." See that? So the days of trouble are at hand. Okay, the days of Jacob's trouble are nigh. But as the Lord said, He is going to deliver us, the hopeful elect, out of these times. Okay, make sure that we have provision and protection. Make sure that we have the things that we need to endure to the end. Okay, and of course, most of all, the Lord's going to make sure that we, the hopeful elect, have the Holy Spirit, okay, and the Spirit within us to endure through these hard times. Okay, the Lord's going to put a spirit upon us to keep the faith, be stable in these times through wisdom and understanding. All right, and the fear of Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai. Right? Hey, the Lord's going to do everything to make sure that His elect endures to the end and get the victory that's written of in the scriptures. And it says, verse 75, "Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai is your God." See that? Hey, so this the Lord giving us a commandment right here. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt. Okay? For Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai is your guide. See that? And even Yahweh Shai himself gave us a straightforward commandment out of his mouth in Revelation 2:10. Be faithful unto death. Okay? Matter of fact, let's get it real quick. This is Revelation chapter 2, verse 10. This Yahweh Shai is speaking. He says, "Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer." See that? Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Just like we read in 2nd Ezra 16 and 75. "Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai is your guide." Okay? Revelation 2:10, Yahweh Shai is speaking. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Okay? What are we going to be suffering? Jacob's trouble, great death, great famine, the sword. Okay? Witnessing people getting judged by the teeth of wild beasts and animals and newly created creatures and all these things. Right? He says, "Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison." Right? These different concentration camps, detention centers, alligator Alcatraz. Right? Some of us are going to be cast into prison. Right? But it says that ye may be tried. See that? That we may be tried, that our faith may be tested, during the hour of temptation. Okay, when we're going to be faced with that charagma or the guillotine, right? And it says, and you shall have tribulation 10 days, right? 10 days representing a perfect amount of days. Okay, it says, according to our measure of faith, right? It says, but be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. See that? Straightforward commandment from Yahweh Shai himself. Be thou faithful unto death, and he will give us the crown of life. Okay? And hey, the pale horse. Okay, the time of the pale horse is one of the major things that we're gonna have to go through to receive that crown. Okay, witness. Okay, the sword and anarchy and civil war and civil division taking place throughout America. Okay, witness. All right, great famine and great starvation, great hunger taking place throughout America. Right, especially amongst the so-called poor and middle class. Being starved out, undergoing famine, right? And as well being judged by these animals out here. Okay, these are the things that we're gonna have to go through and witness on our way to victory. Okay, to receiving the crown of life. But at the same time, these are the things that Yahweh Shema Shai told us, as we just read in the scriptures, to fear not. Okay, don't fear when these things come to pass, because these are all prophecies. All right, and as well, all these things, the sword, hunger, death, teeth of wild beasts, all these things were ultimately created for the wicked. All right, these things were ultimately created for the wicked to fall victim to. All right, especially the 2/3 of our people. So we, the hopeful elect, all right, the remnant, when these things come to pass, okay, fear not, as Yahweh Shema Shai told us in prophecy. All right, because these things were not made for us. All right, we were made to get the victory of all these things and more. Okay, we were made to be more than conquerors through Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, as it speaks of in Revelation 8 chapter, Romans 8 chapter. See that? So, so yeah. So, Lord willing, this video is edifying. And until next time, hey, hope for the best, but expect the worst. Because hey, things are gonna have to continue to get worse before they get better. Before Yahweh Shai comes back to deliver us, the hopeful elect. Okay, so with that, Lord willing, this video is edifying, and until next time, Shalom.